releasing a line of Supreme My Bloody Valentine clothing line stuff.
Are there still actually like living real human beings who are buying and wearing Supreme? I feel like I literally have not seen Supreme clothing on a human being since like sophomore year of college, but I feel like it's become almost another form of stocks where like people just buy and trade and accumulate them. They have a value,
It's
but
just
no
so
use.
wild. Like skate style should be so accessible, yet Supreme has become this like high fashion, super expensive clothing line.
It's so fucking dumb. There's a whole set of issues that I take with the whole like quote unquote like streetwear like thing, like movement. I don't even know, like lifestyle streetwear brand where it's like appropriating from skateboarding culture and also from inner city minority cultures like Black and Latino cultures, and then it's just like let's make it wildly expensive and super white and super lame. And it's like I have a personal like gripe with this question going back to college, a very close and unresolved collegiate discussion on this very topic that gets my blood boiling to this day. But yeah, it's ridiculous, and I'm honestly a little disappointed in My Bloody Valentine that they weren't smarter to be like Supreme is for losers. Like, I don't know.
I don't know if it's in the hands of My Bloody Valentine as maybe it is their label. I don't know who has the say in this. Velvet Underground, they were also on Supreme too. There's like a Velvet Underground Supreme line. There's some other bands too. I don't remember other big bands. Honestly, there's probably a Joy Division Supreme line. I would not be surprised.
Of course. Well, I know that as far as the Velvet Underground goes, I know that the band, I don't know when, I think it was in like the 90s or early 2000s, but the actual surviving members of the band sued Verve, the record label that album is on, and they sued the Andy Warhol Foundation because the band members weren't getting any proceeds from any t-shirts or posters or artwork or anything like that had the banana on it, and all the money was going to mostly the Andy Warhol Foundation. And so I bet you that the Supreme like collab, if that's like, you know, Supreme X Velvet Underground or whatever they bill it as, is probably more so dealings with the Andy Warhol collaboration than it is with like the Velvet Underground and like the band and their, I guess, estates. I can see...
You never saw... Lou Reed loves Supreme, dude. You never saw him in his high tops, in his, like, Supreme flat top.
He was actually the first one in line to buy the brick when they released that, like, $50 brick that was literally just a brick that said Supreme. I'm pretty sure he was the first one in line. He got it, and then he threw it through a cop's window. Which is what you should do with your Supreme brick if you bought one. That's the only redeeming action that you can take with that brick.
Welcome to Strange Conversations, where rock and roll isn't dead. It's just a loosely defined genre. You know, it's not dead. It's kind of evolved.
I was going to say it's not dead. It's just on a Supreme shirt.
It's a Supreme sweater. I'm Austin Kenny.
I'm Dylan Bennett.
And this week we are talking about Every Bad by Porridge Radio.
A nice little post-punk, sort of slacker rock outfit from Brighton in the UK.
This is our first studio album release. Came out March 13th, 2020. Like Dylan said, it's a slacker rock kind of sounding album. So those who may not know what that is, it's Pavement and Parquet Courts are a couple of bands who I guess are examples of that. I would say it's like punk without as much attitude in a sense. A little more laid back. It doesn't have as much of a politically charged message as punk does either, but I don't know. There's still kind of that punk ethos somewhere in slacker rock, I would say.
Slacker rock has really had like the last like 5 years have been sort of like a renaissance for slacker rock.
Nice
With Parquet Courts
pronunciation.
for sure. Yeah, I know you gotta put a little je ne sais quoi on it. I'm not really sure what that actually means. I just say it a lot because I think it can mean whatever you want it to mean. I think with like Parquet Courts and Car Seat Headrest, sort of really those two picking up a little bit of where I think the slacker rock bands just like right around 2000 totally fell off the face of the earth a little bit. Some lived on. It seemed like as like Pavement broke up and as people got more interested in like Nickelback and like Three Doors Down when they thought of like rock bands instead of bands like Modest Mouse or Pavement or, you know, bands that were still alive and kicking towards the end of the 90s. It seemed like slacker rock kind of went away with Pavement a bit, and with bands like Modest Mouse really like becoming mainstream staples with big hits. But then with Parquet Courts and with Car Seat Headrest, and I would say with like Snail Mail and a lot of just the more
Bedroom
lo-fi.
pop
Yeah,
kind of
exactly. Like
stuff.
yeah, the lo-fi indie rock kind of crowd. I think the ethos of slacker rock is like alive and well now at this moment.
We kind of see the effects of those later 90s bands really playing on music now that's coming out. I think it took kind of time for it to kind of sit and marinate with people for bands to like look back and use that as inspiration for current albums, whereas in the early 2000s and in the 2010s, in the early 2010s rather, slacker rock wasn't as big of an inspiration just because it still wasn't as old of a genre and it wasn't something that had sat with people enough, I think, to kind of inspire.
I really do like how nicely Parquet Courts sits between it. They find a nice line where they straddle post-punky sort of twangy like sharp guitar sound of a band like REM or of a band like The Fall or something like that, and then mix it with like Pavement, Two State. I remember the first time I heard Two States and the guitar solo like kicks in. I was like, oh, so this is like what Parquet Courts heard and was like, this will be our band. Like this song is our exact aesthetic for our first three records. It's like the guitar tone on that song is so exactly what Parquet Courts like sounded like on their first few albums that it like blew me away. I was like, holy crap.
Atonal notes sounds wrong, but it also sounds kind of right. Like there is still
Yeah.
some sort of intent to those notes that are played. Like they aren't part of like the correct soundscape, but somehow they fit in there so nicely, or not nice. I don't know. They just sit in the song in such a interesting way. Yeah, I think that's what's so cool about slacker
Yeah.
rock is it just allows
Music.
for that kind of, put in
Yeah.
whatever guitar solo you want.
Music theory people, feel free to shit on us in the comments if you know what it is. I think it's like, maybe it's like seventh notes or something like that. But that like that's the extent of my music theory knowledge of like why it sounds. I like to use the word raunchy. I don't know why, but it that
Yeah, it
it's got
definitely
that
is a raunchy
that
sound.
stink on it. It's like
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a funk to it. This album, Every Bad, came out on the label Secretly Canadian, which has some kind of slacker rock-esque bands, or I guess maybe more bedroom pop sounding. The one in particular, Cherry Glazer, I guess is the closest to a bedroom pop slacker rock sort of band on this
yeah.
label.
Probably this most similar to Porridge Radio out of the artists that I saw on Secret Canadian, but a really strong, like pretty diverse indie roster. I mean,
Yeah, I
there
didn't
was
realize Animal
yeah.
Collective is on this.
Yeah,
That's
some I think earlier Animal Collective releases, or maybe Animal Collective releases in a bit of a middle period, because I think right now Animal Collective releases on their own label that they like created. I don't know when around, but I'm pretty sure they release all their stuff on their own label. Whitney, who are like a really, really popular sort of like folk, like meets indie rock kind of band, like singer-songwriter meets indie rock, like have a couple of really solid songs. Probably the most well-known and maybe like most revered kind of alt country artist, Jason Molina, who also went under the moniker Songs Ohio.
Huh.
Now that Ryan Adams is an absolute monster, the only cool alt country people to listen to, Jason Molina is the last one left. And, well, last one. Unfortunately, he's passed away quite a while ago. Mark Kozilak is apparently a huge dick, and Ryan Adams is a monster. That leaves Songs Ohio, the last bastion of the alt country world. Wilco, I guess there's also Wilco. Everyone loves Wilco. Like all around, pretty solid acts. The War on Drugs, I think, put out their first record, and I believe Lost in the Dream on Secretly Canadian. I don't know about their most recent album, but I know Lost in the Dream is out on Secretly Canadian, and that is a phenomenal record. For as much as the War on Drugs is like new, spelled like new metal, new dad rock. I do genuinely adore Lost in the Dream. I think that is a masterpiece of an album.
Agreed. Actually, I have no idea. I haven't listened. I haven't listened to that album.
Oh, I think you'd love it. It's shoegaze meets Bruce Springsteen meets Tom Petty meets like synth pop. It's and it sounds weird. It sounds totally strange. But once you like hear it and put it all together, it's a phenomenal album to just like drive through middle America to.
I'm not a huge Bruce Springsteen nor Tom Petty fan, so I don't know if it's something that would grab me too much. But maybe I'll give it a listen.
Throw Bob Dylan in there for good measure too. Like, but like in the sense where it's like it's got this just like it's like heartland rock. It's real dad rocky. Also very very.
I'm pretty sure my
tasteful.
mom's a big War on Drugs fan.
Your mom definitely smokes pot then, because I can't imagine anyone who listens to the
don't go accusing my mom of doing that on this podcast.
They're definitely, I think, like the new Grateful Dead. I think like their fandom is like a very similar modern version of the Grateful Dead, because I'd imagine a War on Drugs concert is like a giant jam. That's kind of like the sound they have.
Strange conversations.
Every Bad by Porridge Radio. The first studio release by this band. I'm not sure if I said that already or not. They're one of those groups. I really don't know anything about them. I don't know if it's a person or a group or what the deal with them is. They have sort of a back catalog on Bandcamp, but this is their first studio release. But there are sort of a series of albums that came before this that are on Bandcamp. Maybe they were on a label. I didn't research too much. It seems like this is their first big studio release as far as I could tell.
Yeah, I think so. I'm also not positive if it's been like a dedicated band. I think it might be the case where it's similar to Car Seat Headrest, where the singer and songwriter Dana Morgulin, I believe it might have been like a moniker sort of solo project, and as the project expanded, I think maybe now they have a set personnel for the lineup of the band. They're a 4-piece. I was surprised by that. They had a very full sound. I guess with a studio album you can always lay down more tracks. Pretty full sound, like I think on quite a lot of the album.
Yeah, but before we dive into the album, I did want to quickly mention you said Car Seat Headrest, and the reason I found out about this band was they were going to go on tour with Car Seat Headrest. I was going to see them in Portland before all live music was canceled forever. But,
all live everything.
So that's how I found out about this album, was they were going on tour with Car Seat Headrest. So I think there's a lot of similarities too between kind of the artists that can kind of hear throughout the album.
I think that there's a little bit more post-punk inflected in this artist's sound, but the first things I was thinking of were, I was like, oh, this is sort of like a little bit more aggressive kind of snail mail.
I think I honestly get like very Pavement Parquet Court sort of vibes from a lot of this album. I think it's the song Don't Ask Me Twice that has this interesting sort of rhythm to it. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's
Yeah.
not exactly something you can tap your foot to, but it's got this really cool sound to it coming in.
Yeah, it's like lumbering. I remember I marked that as like really having liked it. Circling too towards the end of the album. I think it's a good name for that song because that also like it has what you're talking about. It's like this sort of like off kilter sort of sense to the rhythm of the song. It's not like a straight beat. It's kind of has a bit of a skew to it, and I think that reminded me of like the way in which a lot of early, especially early parquet courts, I think they haven't gotten poppier, but I think that their sound has gotten more produced, and so they put more instrumentation into their songs, and the arrangements have gotten more elaborate, but they also like they don't have a lot of. I'm trying to compare between something like Wide Awake, that song, like Stoned and Starving. Like they
Yeah.
if Wide Awake is kind of like the current Parquet Courts direction, which I think is still like phenomenal. Like Wide Awake and Violence, and even like corny songs like Freebird 2, like or Before the Water Gets Too High. I think those are all like solid songs. The early stuff on their first few albums had like this really kind of off kilter, like What Color Is Blood, like songs like that have this sort of wonky quality to them.
Kind of going back to Car Seat Headrest sounds, does something similar that I love in Car Seat Headrest, where the songs come to a lot of these big sort of crescendos, where by the end of them, they've just built and built and built and are just kind of this huge, like, tension building, like, release by the end of it that I think is just so satisfying to listen to. One song in particular I remember really just, like, taken away by the end was Lilac, sort of towards the end of the album.
Oh yeah, that
It
sounds
has
great.
this really, really just like big crescendo by the end of it. And for a second I thought like, wow, that must be the end of the album right there. Like holy cow. Like that was such like a big song. And then it like, Circling, I think, is even like a great follow-up to it as a song. It's not like the same sort of crescendo, but it's this really interesting response where it's kind of got like this computery, techno-y kind of voice where this album just like pulls in from so many places, where
Yeah.
it is like a rock album at some points, but then it also does like bring in from these like techno-y, like Devo kind of sounds too.
Like long, that song is it's a great track to release during like a quarantine. The lyrics to that song is like, I'm wasting my life, like wasting the days away. Like listening to that song, I was like feeling such a cathartic sense of like, oh, like this song kind of gets this moment that I'm living through right now. But it's also like, yeah, it's like a sort of LCD sound system kind of like dancey track. Like it's got some like synth pads and has like more of a dancey beat to it. And that song was like the first one on the album that really shifted my expectation, because the first three are all sort of like more, I would say the first three songs are the most aggressive and sort of punky of the album. Sweet, especially. Sweet has like a really aggressive like hard guitar
Such
riff
an
that's
awesome
really
song.
cool. Yeah. And Don't Ask Me Twice. Yeah, I agree with that. Like Don't Ask Me Twice is like real wonky, off kilter, but then it resolves that with a really satisfying, really sing-songy chorus that like balances it really well, I think. And then
I think
there's like
so many of these songs do that, where they have these moments of being off kilter and funky, but then they pull you back in with these super duper catchy choruses. Like Born Confused, for example, the first song. Like when I first listened to this album, that song didn't hook me, but like today I realized I was just like sitting at my desk and I was just like singing that song. Like so many of these songs just kind of have that like weird moment, bring you back with a good hook.
And I think it's really funny that like buried right in the middle of this album is almost like a song that like, it's such a powerful song, but it's also so insanely catchy, and it's called Pop Song, that like my brain almost is tricking itself into like judging the song from like an ironic distance and like not actually liking it. But it's such an insanely catchy and like moving, almost ballad
like right in the middle that literally like it's called pop song, but I like no joke, I could picture this being a song that like Lady Gaga like recorded, and not in a snarky way, like not saying that in a snarky way, but like think of like some of Lady Gaga's like actually like really powerful songs that I mean, I genuinely think Lady Gaga is a really strong songwriter, and especially the way she writes like pop ballads. Pop song is it's something like God, what's the Oscar movie that she did? The everyone was freaking singing it with Bradley Cooper. My mom's gonna kill me for not knowing this.
Star.
A Star is Born.
Born a
What's the
Star.
song?
A
Yeah.
Star is Born, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But like pop song,
There's Bradley
Yeah,
Cooper
right,
and I'm
right.
singing a song and I'm Bradley Cooper.
Shallow. That's the name of it.
Yeah.
But like pop song, like it reminded me of something like that. Like it really does have like strong pop chops. Like it's both very strong songwriting, but also at the same time like my sort of snarky like indie minded brain like wants to think like it's also like lazy songwriting, but I don't know which it is or if it's both and if it's great because it's both. Like I'm like, oh yeah, it's a pop song.
It's too meta.
Yeah, I'm like literally I'm like, oh, it's a pop song, but also I'm like, damn, this is a catchy ass song. Like I'm singing along and I'm like, it's moving as hell. Like this is a ballad.
The song that comes right after it, Give / Take, the first time I listened to the album, that was the first song that I was like, I need to look at the name of this song because I really like this, how this one sounds. I don't know. It was just the first time I listen to albums, I kind of do a passive listen. And sometimes if like a song grabs me, I'll see what the name of it is. And this was like that first listen. I was like, I want to know what the name of this song is because it kind of has a nice like groove to it. And it's got like one of those countdowns in the beginning. Voice is so awesome. I don't know. I've been thinking of how to describe it. I kind of get like some Florence and the Machine vibes, if you know what I mean. I don't know. It's just got like that kind of wild, like crackly, raspy voice that it's so cool, but I really don't know how to describe it. When they start yelling, it's so like exciting and grabbing. I don't know.
It's super charged. Like there's so much emotion behind vocals that she controls like the raspiness and like the huskiness without it being like a personality, like an in your face like overdone thing. Like she lands those emotional moments really well. It reminded me of this probably isn't like a clarifying reference. This is probably, if anything, like an equally as obscure reference, but maybe some people will know this artist. You actually showed me this person that I'm thinking of, Haley Hendrix. She spells her last name with 2 X's at the end. You showed me a song of hers called Shalala that's like super great. Really reminded me of the way that she does like her vocal deliveries with like really melodic, really catchy, but then just like suddenly like broken and like emotional and like raw and in your face, and like balancing those two things like super well.
I think the vocals in this too are what help to build those crescendos in all these songs so much that by the end of the song, there's like the yelling and the raspy crackliness is just so much more intense than it is by the beginning of the song, and you really just kind of like feel that explosion at the end.
Yeah, this album has such a propulsive, I would say like the whole freaking 8 first songs, it's like such a propulsive album that by the time you get to like Lilac or Circling, it feels like it's gone by so fast. But at the same time, like I enjoyed every minute of it. I will say I think the album kind of peters out with the last 2 songs, but I think that's mostly because they're sort of quieter and more, especially Something is much more of kind of like an interlude of a song than like really a full song.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, like Lilac, when I listened to it, it had such an explosion that I was like, whoa, this must be the end of the album. And after that, like I think Circling is cool, but The last two songs aren't as interesting. They kind of like come in just at a weird point where they do feel a little thrown in there, where I think something could have worked a little better placed in the middle somewhere as an
Yeah.
interlude.
Yeah.
Where Homecoming though it is a really good song, where it is another song that has like a big outro to it. But I just
Yeah.
think in comparison to Lilac, it felt like it wasn't as explosive and as strong of an ending track.
The album has it's like immaculate pacing and then just suddenly kind of a little Peter at the end. And like that is
Yeah.
that is a very small notch against an album that otherwise really really hooked me like all the way through basically. Like even
Yeah.
songs that didn't like totally wow me, like, you know, Don't Ask Me Twice, Nephews, those songs didn't totally like catch me right away, but they're still really strong songs and they still don't take away from like the momentum of the album at all. Whereas
Oh,
once you
Nephews is
get,
an awesome song. You gotta listen to Nephews again, because
I think
it's an awesome song.
I
I
think it's
found
be-
like with so
yeah.
many of the songs on this album, you go back and listen to this album again. Like I've only listened a couple times, but the more I go back to it, I'm like, wow, these are like all really great songs.
I think how different Long and Pop Song are right between like sandwiching Nephews. Nephews was a little more like the rest of the album, but because it was like right after Long and right before Pop Song, those two songs were just so different than what the rest of the flavor of the album was, that Nephews, I honestly don't even remember Nephews. Where I
No,
really remember
go
Long
back
and
and
I
check it
remember Pop
out.
Song.
Go back and check it out. Yeah, this is a really exciting album, and I think I want to see that other stuff that Porridge Radio has on
Yeah.
Bandcamp, because I'm curious as to how this compares, and I'm so bummed that I'm not going to get to see this show with Car Seat Headrest, because I'm sure it would have been like so exciting. And this was an album that I think neither of us really knew anything going into, so
No.
listening to it, I was pretty excited by the outcome, honestly.
Yeah. Got me highly into this artist. Like I am very, very pleased with this album and with like the discovery, and I am very excited to dive into their older stuff. They do have a couple of, I think, those early singles on Spotify, which is both convenient but also I'll say not ideal. I think that like it's tough to ask people to spend money given our current circumstances, but also people should consider that like artists are also living through this, and for them like a platform like Bandcamp is much more of a stable source of income than Spotify.
Sometimes
so,
even
like,
those early
yeah.
albums are only like $1 or $2.
Yeah,
to
like
it,
literally,
yeah.
it's like one or two songs if it's like a single or an EP. So,
Yeah.
and some artists do name what you want. So like,
Yeah.
if
you can even
if
do
you're
free
yeah, which is like
if you're really stingy.
if you're a real scum. But no, this was seriously solid album. Very very cool synthesis of a lot of the different things that I've been listening to lately and a lot of the artists that I like. I would say like this is one of those like RIYL, Parquet Courts, Pavement, Snail Mail, like who else would you throw in there?
Oof. I don't know. I mean, you covered a lot of the ones that,
Yeah, those
kind
are-
of jumped to my mind. Honestly,
even-
I was surprised this wasn't a Matador or Rough Trade artist. You know, they have that kind of sound to them where it's just, you know, that slacker, rough sort of rock sound. You name most of the bands that really jumped to my mind. Pavement and Parquet Courts, I'll say them again. Those were the two that I was thinking about as I listened to this album.
The UK is really just like the UK is really doing a good job in the rock department in general. I think that most of the bands that I'm most excited about at the moment are British. There's a well, I guess that's not true. That's not really true.
That's not true.
Well,
I can name a couple that aren't British that you are excited for.
That's true. That is really true. I
You want to get
immediately
into a
said-
whole segment of me naming not British bands that Dylan
not-
likes.
I think this is an interesting artist if you are a sort of there's a whole segment of people that like if you are a UK post-punk head, like if you're like a big like Idols, Fontaines DC, like girl band, Ditz, like all those sort of like noisy post-punk sort of bands that are like huge from the UK right now, like especially Idols. Idols are fucking awesome, but I think that a lot of those artists they're all very progressive and they're all really awesome people, which I love, but they're also very macho heavy. And I think this album is a really, really cool female deconstruction of contemporary post-punk, like where contemporary post-punk is right now, noisy and aggressive. And this is like taking those tendencies and making it also lush and beautiful.
It's a little more US post-punk inspired at times to me, where it doesn't have a huge UK sound to it, where obviously the vocals have a British voice to them, but I think like instrumentally it doesn't sound super UK. It sounds a lot more US.
I agree with that. I think that it sticks out on some songs. Like I think Sweet really reminded me of like Sweet's probably the most like aggressive song on the album. Sweet really reminded me of something like could have been like, you know, like Idols or something like that. But yeah, I do agree. Like it's much more sort of parquet courts flavored, and they're kind of like they're a weird hybrid themselves. Like they're like slacker rock, post-punk, country, classic rock. Like they're all these weird things thrown together.
I think before we give our final thoughts on this album, though, we should take a quick commercial break. First and foremost, in this here commercial break, we want to thank Gabby / at Lollygabber for the art she made for episode 4, our Facts Void Moments episode. She did the album art. It's really cool. We did share it on Instagram, but I think you can find it on her Instagram as well. Thank you, Gabby, for that. And if you ever make any art while you're listening to this show, or do anything to keep your hands busy, don't send us everything you do keeping your hands busy while you're watching this, but if it's art or something like that, send it to us.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to share what you guys make for us. And even Gabby made some amazing art inspired by our review of Facts, and we shared it on our page, and then Facts shared it on their page. You might get shared by a band that you just heard about that you love, and then all their fans are seeing your amazing art. So don't be afraid. Like, you might get some pretty awesome hype from what you make. And even if you don't want it to be broadcast to the whole world, if you just send it to us and let us know you made it, we'd really appreciate that. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel like people are appreciating what we're putting out there. We don't have to put you on blast if you don't want, but we like to reciprocate the love.
Message us on Instagram at strange.convo.pod, and our email address, you can send us an email at strange.conversations.cast@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with us anyway. So those are 2 possible ways you can get into contact with us with your art, or if you have any ideas too for our intro / outro, we can always use help with writing.
Yeah. If you make music, we would fucking love to put some music on the show. Like we're kind of screwed over that we only get about like 20-30 seconds out of YouTube's copyright policies, but if you want to send us some stuff that doesn't have a copyright claim on it and you want us to play it all in full, we would love to do that. We'd play 40 straight minutes of music if you send it to us.
Yeah. It'd be cool to have like a music intermission in the middle of the show. If people like sent us a song and we could just have like a break in the middle of the show where we just play a whole entire song that someone sends in. That'd be really fun if anyone's got anything out there. Also,
yeah.
check out our weekly playlist. That's the other
Yeah.
thing we should say here in this
Yes,
time.
most def. We're trying to keep y'all ears well moisturized with. That was a weird way to. That was a creepy way
I
to
liked
put it.
it. Yeah, I
Well,
liked it.
well moisturized with healthy, soothing sounds. So we're trying to put together every Sunday. We're throwing out 10 songs. 10 songs. It's like at most maybe an hour of music. 10 songs for you every week. The theme is going to be different. This last week, our theme, we were doing a kind of a decade-based theme, but we're doing a weird decade. We were doing 87 to 97. So it's a lot of really cool indie rock, some great slacker rock picks in there. If you're trying to get more into the, what we've been talking about lately, highly
Yeah,
recommend you check
Liz
it out.
Fair. Liz Fair's in
Yeah.
there. We didn't even talk about Liz Fair when talking about this Porridge Radio album, but Liz Fair is so awesome, and you can hear Liz Fair sound in this Porridge Radio album, I think.
Matriarch. Don't ever forget it. I know that Fiona Apple is having a comeback right now, but don't ever forget who the matriarch is of female slacker rock. It's Liz Fair.
So yeah, those weekly playlists can be found on our Instagram, which is again strange.convo.pod. They've been coming out on Sundays, I think.
Yeah,
right?
both have been on Sunday so far.
Yeah,
we got
so...
two followers on our last week's one, and we got 3 followers on the week before that. Yeah,
more than
keep
zero,
it up.
So.
Keep more than none.
Oh man, as always, it's that time again.
Oh god. Oh god.
They're coming. They're coming in hot. They're coming in fast. They're coming in heavy. We got some singles in your area right now, and I'm excited about
these before.
Yeah, I'm excited. Some artists we've heard about in the singles area before. Phoebe Bridgers with her single Kyoto. She just announced her upcoming album Punisher is going to be out on June 3rd. Maybe we'll be doing an episode of that, so keep your ears peeled. But yeah, the single Kyoto is awesome. I think it's honestly one of my favorite Phoebe Bridgers songs that I've heard.
I gave it a listen. I've only heard it once so far, but I did give it a listen, and it is very, very good. Phoebe Bridgers is not an artist that I was familiar with before doing this podcast, but I've listened to all the things that have been coming out, and I listened to that album. I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's got the ghost on the front
Stranger
of it,
in the Alps.
Yeah, and it is highly affecting emotional music, which is really good. Very good
Kyoto,
for this moment.
Kyoto also has a great music video too. Check that out. Super fun green screen action.
So will this album be a concept album about the Punisher, the vigilante?
That's what we're all wondering.
Theories?
Is it the soundtrack for the upcoming Punisher franchise?
I think so. Starring John Bernthal?
This next, I want to save this one for last. Let's do Ice Age.
Yeah,
next.
let's throw out this Ice Age one. I both very much enjoy and also slightly am worried about the longevity of this song because
I thought this song was really cheesy and
yeah,
I wasn't super into it.
I do really like the
Lockdown
really
Blues
like
is the name of it.
Like musically, I really like it. Any song, I think any artist who takes the low-hanging fruit and makes a song about like quarantine or COVID in a very explicit way, like they literally say coronavirus in the song.
Yeah, it's like COVID-19.
Yeah.
Lockdown.
It's like, dude, it's not gonna age well. And it's a great song. That's the problem. Like, it is like, I like Ice Age's more rocky songs. They also have some songs that are real sort of like, they kind of like are folk punk, but they're good, but they're not really my jam. Like anytime I hear like a fiddle or a violin, I kind of am like, eh. But I do really like quite a lot of their more sort of shoegaze punk, sort of post-punk songs. And this one is more like that. Like it's more just like electric guitar, kind of hard strummed riff, no violin to be heard. They say COVID-19, and it's like, it's not gonna age well. Like,
Yeah,
my God, I hope it doesn't
I
age
think
well.
yeah, the instrumentals are solid and they are cool, but the lyrics are really where this song loses me, and I'm just like, come on. This is just kind of cheesy, and it feels like such a, look at us, we're struggling artists in lockdown, COVID-19.
In 15 years, when they make a live action dramatization starring Mark Wahlberg about the coronavirus, this will probably be in the movie.
Yeah, this will be like the trailer. Transformers COVID-19.
Honestly, I was gonna say, as a props to Ice Age, it probably won't be in the trailer. It probably will be like buried in the credits. And
Yeah.
like it'd be one of those songs where like if the weird people who stay to the very, very end of the credits like hear it and they're like, oh shit, Ice Age. Why didn't they use that in like the movie? Like why is it now at the end of the credits? But some Hollywood bigwig is like, I don't know who these Danish boys are.
All right, this last single is one I've been back and forth on a lot, but I think I've settled on I like it. That's Car Seats, Headrests. Sorry, wow. Whew, that phrasing it was really hard to get that out. Car Seat, Headrests, Hollywood. Their album Making a Door Less Open comes out May 1st. This single Hollywood is interesting. It's way different from a lot of Car Seat, Headrest stuff. It's got the drummer Andrew singing kinda on it. It is I don't know. Out of the three singles, it's the most interesting.
Yeah.
What Dylan? What are your thoughts?
When I heard the song open up the first time with like the electric guitar riff and this, it's kind of twangy, sort of.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of that funk on it that I think we were talking about. I was really optimistic. I was like, oh, okay. This is going to be something like, this is going to be kind of like Teens of Denial, maybe, sort of Car Seat, Headrest, electric guitar led. Then I like listened to the words, and then like Lil Jon came on the track, or I guess whoever the Lil Jon impersonator was on the track, and I kind of was like, oh, it's a real quirky song. Like it's not horridly obnoxious. I think it doesn't strike me as serious enough for me to be like, oh, he actually cares about what he's singing about. And also, I think tonally, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's really interesting what this project has become, because One Trait Danger, this rap side project that Andrew, the drummer, sort of leads a little bit more, and Will Toledo, the front man of Car Seat Headrest, is involved in, something that they have been doing sort of on the side of the tours, and it is really shown that it is inspired this album a lot more than we may have expected, with Andrew singing on this song and kind of this persona that Will is like dressing up as. I think part of me really wants to like it. That's my thing with a lot of these Car Seat Headrest singles, is when I first listen to them, I'm always so excited. I'm like, oh, nice, a new single. And I get like that first listen, like excitement hype. And I'm like, this is the best single ever. And then, the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, I'm not really sure how I feel about it. And with what these three Car Seat Headrest singles have been, I have no idea what this album is gonna be. I think they're really all over the place. They're the first two I think are very Car Seat Headrest songs, but I think this one just kind of like thrown in there kind of tosses off the balance completely. And I'm just really not sure what this album is going to be. I pre-ordered it, so I'll be hopefully I'm expecting that wax here on my doorstep on May 1st, but no worries if it's not. I will understand.
I think
if it doesn't get here then, but
I've kind of figured out, like, if I'm honest, I have not really enjoyed any of these singles. I will still listen to the album and I'll still give it like a more than fair shot, but so far these singles have made me not optimistic that it'll be my cup of tea. And I think I kind of am locating why that might be. And I think it's because for me, like, Car Seat Headrest, from his like lo-fi early stuff all the way up until the Twin Fantasy remake and everything in between, I especially think Teens of Denial and Teens of Style as my personal high points. Car Seat Headrest is so earnestly, like, it just the sound of his music is him really putting in effort to like emotional and physical effort to like put across a sense of emotional connection through his songs, like, and like even through otherwise ridiculous lyrics. Like, I think of like the song, like the multiple parentheses song, Joe gets kicked out of school for using drugs with friends, or like whatever that song is. Like the lyrics are utterly ridiculous, funny, satirical, but the way that the song is packaged, the way he sings, the way it is all delivered is, by the time it gets to that end part where you're singing drugs are better, friends are better with, drugs are better with, like that ending of the song, it's so earnest and so heartfelt and so earned. Something like that really makes me like listen to this song with like a bit of a wince, because this song just seems, it almost seems not seriously, he's like not seriously being a troll, and that's being a troll in and of itself, and like it's like ironic trolling, and I don't think that's ever really endearing, especially with like his earlier material finding the meaning and like the essence of life in things that are otherwise so mundane and so ridiculous and so otherwise just like laughable.
I know exactly what you're saying. Car Seat Headrest is such an emotionally raw artist, and I think that is one of my favorite parts about them, is they do put out this kind of comical appearance, but as you kind of get into the songs, they are these really deep and emotionally exposed songs that are Will Toledo's kind of diary in a sense, and that's what Car Seat Headrest has been for such a long time. Like, artist that has such a deep back catalog on Bandcamp, that it's Car Seat Headrest hasn't just been a band, it has been Will Toledo's way of sort of connecting with the world. And yeah, these singles have not had that same kind of emotional connection as a lot of his other works. But granted, I will wait until I hear this whole album, kind of top to bottom. Car Seat Headrest is an artist that works best when these albums are kind of put all together too.
Yeah,
so
he does exceptionally well albums. Like, yeah, I will agree with that.
It'll be interesting to hear these singles kind of in a full album context. But I will still, like I said, I think part of me with these singles is I want to like them and love them so badly, because Car Seat Headrest is one of my favorite artists, but I'm really not sure exactly how I feel about them. Hollywood's interesting. It's definitely it's one that has stirred a lot of controversy in the Facebook group that I was in. I left it actually because I don't know, just kind of, there's some of those like band Facebook groups are just so toxic, and
oh god, yeah,
I don't know. That OC's one we're in is like, it's good sometimes, but then sometimes it gets like to a point where it's like, why is everyone arguing on this right now?
Have these weird OCs have a small subset of fans that are like, I mean, I think it's with any punk group, especially a punk group that's lived long enough as OCs has, where they have this small subset of like 50-year-old aged punk dudes who are just like these toxic gatekeepery like losers who are like, well, I was like, like I liked the band when they were putting out their first like shitty demos on cassette tapes, and like, I saw them play in a Burger King in San Francisco in 2001. Like,
And that's the exact
it's like,
same thing with car seat headrest fans too, is they are the type of fans who are like, I hate these new singles because they're not like Will Toledo recording them in the back seat of his parents' car on a cassette tape with like a toy guitar. Like, that's the car seat headrest I know. And I don't know, they're some of how the fans have been reacting is just, it's like, yeah, come on, like, let a band change their sound and explore a
Yeah.
little bit. Like, sure, it's not the band that you know and love, but let them do their thing. A band isn't like indebted to a sound.
No.
They can do what they want to do. It's just a matter of if they want to make it something they think their fans will enjoy, I guess.
Yeah, let them wander. It's healthy. It's healthy. They might lose their way, but they'll find new fertile ground
Yeah,
eventually.
Car Seat Headrest is a young band, so.
A young whippersnapper.
But I'm bummed. Bummed I'm not going to be able to see this live because I know all of these songs would. They're just a fun band live. They put on a really great show. They have a really good chemistry together. You can just tell that they have fun when they play, and I think that's in the end that's what makes a show.
In the end, that's what counts. Having
Love.
fun.
Having fun and love.
Strange conversations.
Porridge Radio. I mean, I think we both kind of were in agreement. We don't need to say too much more, but I personally am excited to listen to this album. Or, like I said, I've only listened to it a couple times, but I definitely want to hear it more and hear what it has to offer.
Oh yeah. I think the most telling seal of approval for me is like when I get to a point where if I've listened to an album and I just make I put it in a mental filing cabinet where some albums I immediately like, I'm just like, I'm buying this like on vinyl right now. Like I'm like, I don't even need to go out. I don't even need to find a store. Like I'm going straight to the source. I need it right now. Those are few and far between, but a really great album, when I hear it, I put it in the mental filing cabinet of, if I ever get a chance, if I see it in a store, or if like, if I just hit a point where I'm like, I'd like to buy some records, this gets put in that filing cabinet. This gets put in the like, this is a record to get filing cabinet. This is a one that I want in the collection. I'd like to see the very small spine next to lots of other very small spines of records. Because this is a great album, and I am very excited to hear the earlier work from this artist. I am very excited to hear new work from this artist going into the future, and I just, all positives, strong output.
And I think to our listeners too, no matter what genres you're really interested in, well, I mean, obviously this is a rock album, so you're if you're looking for a good rock album, though, this is a really, really awesome album all around. No matter what type of rock you're into, I think this kind of has something for everybody. So whether you're looking for those slow jams, those emotional jams, those just like hard rockers, this album has something. And yeah, definitely check it out. No matter what kind of rock you like, this will definitely rock your socks.
Yes. This is a Porridge radio station worth tuning into.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think dare I say, this maybe is my favorite album that we have talked about so far. I don't know if what I have said about each of these albums, if I have maybe said that every episode. I've not re-listened to every episode in its entirety after I edit. I would say, as of right now, this album is probably the one I'll listen to the most.
I mean, like, really, Joy Division can just go fuck itself. They're so overrated.
I mean, of the new albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Facts, Voodoo
Yeah.
Bar, Wasted Shirt. I think
Yeah.
that's it.
I think
Facts, Voodoo
because
Bar, Wasted Shirt.
I think because Facts is an album I own on vinyl, and it's such an experiential thing. I think that's an album I'll definitely listen to less than this one. I think I'll listen to songs off of this much more frequently, like on playlists and like just like on their own throughout the day, like as I'm doing things. I think Facts is like an album that I want to like. It's something I like to take in like all at once. Where
Yeah.
this has really really strong songs that like I can very easily see quite a lot of these songs fitting well into playlists that I'm building.
It's such a great indie rock album, and it's such an accessible one too that I really think people should give it a shot. It's so
Yeah.
much fun, and I'm definitely gonna be listening to it more. And Dylan, before we wrap up too, I do really quickly want to hear a little bit about your D&D character. Just like a quick,
Oh.
it doesn't have to be a super long summary, but just like
I'm gonna take
a
out my
good quick
7
outline.
pages of notes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the novel. The quick overview, and we can maybe, throughout the show, we can sprinkle it in some more.
Oh yeah. Well, I can't give away too much at the moment because my character, his full backstory is a secret to my campaign. So I can't give away too much information at current. But what information is public to my campaign is my character is a half elf. He is a half elf rogue. His name is Sylvid Silvertongue. He specializes in the criminal goings on amongst the powerful political and governmental people in the realm that we're playing in. He does quite a bit of back and forths between politicians and criminals and organized crime and unsavory types. But he has a real chip on his shoulder. He has a very strong personal reason for not trusting people and for working actively to screw over his employers. Those reasons will become more obvious as the story continues. I'm like a rogue's rogue. I'm very out for myself. I'm constantly deceiving and tricking and charming my way through situations. I'm sneaky and I'm a nice personality, but I'm definitely I'm not a sword first kind of person. I'm a nice smile first and then a knife in your back when you're not looking kind of character.
A high
Oh.
a charisma roller.
Oh, you said hot? Yeah. Oh yeah. My character is tight pants McGee.
A sneaky, sexy sleuth.
Sneaky, sexy sleuth.
All right. Well, I suppose that is the time we got here on this strange conversation. So it's been another one. That's another strange conversation.
Another strong ending.
Another strong ending on this Porridge cast. if that's anything for this outro. Maybe one of these days we'll figure it out. I'm Austin Kenny.
And I'm Dylan Bennett.
Thanks again. Insert outro here.
Bang, bang, bang.